Takes a couple of seconds.
Hey, and we are live.
There we
And
go.
I'm here with Pirate Broadcast with a special guest today. And we've been going back and forth for a while. And he has live now on LinkedIn.
I did.
And we're both, we're cut from the same fold of cotton. And it's awesome to get you on live finally. Nico Bruyn. Nico, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for saying the last name right. That's always a little doozy for most people. So I appreciate that. If you're able to do that, this is going to be a great live, let me tell you. So,
well, we've met in the past before, and I know one of your strategies has been, sit down, grab coffee, have fun, have an honest and open conversation. And we met, I don't know, it's been at least a year ago, and you were before you launched your book, actually. And if you want to find out more about Nico, right here, it's right there. I got it in the show notes. So follow us along. And if you're listening on the podcast, because this is going to be a podcast as well, Nico.
Good.
So this is multi-stream distribution already in motion. And I think that it's important for people to understand that, you've been doing some things. You started out in a different direction.
That's correct.
Completely. You started going down the medical path, and it's like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to do this. So tell us a brief story about how that transition took place and why the trigger in your mind started to jive in that marketing space, because it's not for everyone and it's not easy, and it's fascinating and I love it. However, like I said, it's not for everyone. So what took you from the path of, the medical field down to the marketing?
I would love to say that it was an epiphany I had. I woke up one day and said, you know what? Marketing's for me. In reality, what happened was I'm sitting in class. We met about a year and a half ago, and I was finishing off my degree in nutrition in medicine. And the beautiful aspect about that was I looked at my grades one day and said, listen, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to get into medical school. Like, point blank. Like, I had A's and then B's and then C's, and then we were borderline D's at that point. And I said, listen, I don't think I'm dumb. I don't think anyone's dumb, but I just think my passions aren't in medicine. So after doing a real quick deep dive, and when I say quick, it was a couple of months, I figured out that I liked medicine because of the people aspect of it, which is in today's modern medicine.
So it's the connection.
Absolutely. It's the connections, the stories, and being able to articulate what I had that could be useful in a manner that they would love. That's what I loved about it. Long story short, figured out that if it's not medicine, then it has to be something else. Like in my philosophy, if you can help anyone, you can make a career out of it. So after going through a ton of little mini internships of direct messaging, CEOs and founders, I went from construction to real estate to logistics. And I'm like, can't do it, bad at it, don't want to do it. And that's when I stumbled into marketing. And I said, listen, if I can dedicate my life to helping people tell stories, much like people will help me tell my story, that's a great career. And today we know that's marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, overall, because I started in marketing in 85, when billboards were hand painted still. And, because I've been around a few years, and the common thread through all of it is still being able to articulate a concept and an idea that motivates somebody to do something.
Absolutely.
And regardless of the way that it's delivered, it's still, how can I quickly share an idea and a concept in a story form that allows people to imagine that they could do this too, or they could purchase this, or they could have this, motivate them to something else.
Absolutely. And I think the key that you said is it's telling the story, but it's also telling the story to the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I've noticed in marketing is not everyone's your client. Like, don't shame me for that. But in reality, not everyone's your client, and that's perfect. Maybe not right now, or maybe not ever. But that's where marketers and storytellers come in. Like, our job is to communicate to the right person at the right time, that right message.
Exactly. And it's also very important to understand that, along that path, it's like there's a lot of different people can do the same job. However, people resonate with others in a certain way that allows them to work together. Personalities, just working style, communication style, everything about it. So when you tell people, well, my market is everybody, it's like, no, it's not. It is not everybody.
As much as you want it to be,
it's not going to be that way.
Unless it's like a water, right? And even in that, it's like they're sparkling, they're still, and then like even that example, like
it's insane. So now I want to talk a little bit. I want to shift gears and talk about your book, because there's 20 key components to the marketing aspect. Yes. And so for those of you on podcast, Nico pointed to his book label, his book cover. So it's like, this is fantastic, because I know what it's like to get a book out and produce a book and work your butt off to get to, having it out there. So talk us through, what was that like, and where are you at in this evolution of sharing this information? And just tell us about your book.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I want to add, like, even before we jump on the live, I said I want to add more value to the conversation. So I'm going to make this a very value-based topic, because I know there's so many people who want to write a book. I think the stat is about 2 to 3% of people who set out to write a book actually make it through the end process. And the reason is that it's a tad bit of cats in here. It's a little bit more intimidating once you look at a book as a the final product. But really, a book is like any other project. It's just a series of steps that you have to take, and that's what I did. So I went through a mindset of, okay, I can't change my major in college because it's medicine, and I have to finish it, because otherwise I'd have to be in college for 3 more years, which is a little bit expensive if you haven't heard. So I'm looking at the landscape, and I started reading books like The Third Door and other stories about entrepreneurs who didn't get a degree in something that they do today. And a common theme was a book. So I actually linked up with a Georgetown professor who helps students write books. And when I looked at marketing, I first thought, listen, I love startups. I want to write a book about guerrilla marketing and how to use Instagram and LinkedIn and all these platforms. And what ended up happening was, I realized that I don't even know what I'm doing. They said, engage with your community. I was like, what does that mean? Like, why? Like, all these basic questions. And as I'm going through the literature, I couldn't find a resource that was simple. So that's what I decided to do. The principles came out of my lack of knowledge about marketing. And I thought, if I struggle, maybe someone else struggles too. So let me just put that into a concise message. And I'll be honest with your viewers, which probably are a couple of my viewers as well. I templatized out my whole book. So my book is completely based on Tim Ferriss's book about, Tools of Titans. So it's
the Tools of Titans. Yep.
So it has quotes, story, message, personal narrative, and then checklist. I just followed that procedure throughout the book writing process. When you templatize out like 90% of your book, the conclusion and introduction really fall into play pretty easy. So again, that's why I'm such a huge fan of templates.
I love templates. I love systems. I love automation. I love all of those things that allow you to remove decisions from the process. And so with that being said, I know that this is really an amazing process for you. So where are you in the distribution process? How are you getting this message out, and how are you really producing results in this so far?
Yeah, great question. So honestly, the best thing that I've been able to do is, while writing the book, I've actually put into play all the 20 principles. So the last year and a half of being a content creator on LinkedIn and Instagram and all that fun stuff, I put my principles into play. So I've tested them all out. And through that, some people have asked questions, and I've been able to now give them a resource that's like, if you're struggling with understanding your brand message or your niche or how to tell stories, like, I have a resource for you, and it's super inexpensive, and you don't have to spend 6 months of your life interviewing people and trying to figure it out. So basically, my personal brand on LinkedIn has been able to carry the book forward, which is fantastic. The other benefit has been the the questions I've received after releasing the book, because people are like, this is a great resource, but how is this relevant to me? And that's
Yeah.
actually enabled me to start a whole new company around the fact of, can I teach people how to be foundational marketers and use tools like LinkedIn and Instagram and all digital platforms to carry their message like further. So it's been amazing to put the book out there, get the initial feedback, and again, go to colleges and speak about it, or even just help the smallest like person with the answer that I now have like tangible evidence to, has been utterly amazing. So as well as I do, authors don't make, unless you're in the top 1 or 2% of book writing.
No, it's not
don't
about the money. It's about
the impact.
It's about the. I think there's a certain amount of therapy involved in being able to articulate these ideas and concepts and get them out. And I don't know about you, but I really enjoy. I thoroughly enjoy the process. Like somebody asked me, Jessica Gio asked, Russ, how do you go back into your live feeds and engage in the conversation after the feed is over? It's like, I can't find out how to do that. So I created a little tutorial, shot the video, published it, and put it out there. And if that helps 1 or 10 people, it doesn't really matter. It's just it's one of those things that you could do, that you could put out there that helps someone immediately.
Absolutely.
And it does two things. It does number one, it helps someone. Number two, it gives you the process to understand what it takes to get there. So because if you could simplify it and teach it, and you could teach it simply, then the subject, right?
Absolutely.
The process.
And I think it's just a general curiosity that we have. Like, I was curious about marketing, and the book is kind of a look. This is what I found in my research. It's fun. It's like being a kid and going exploring something and finding out that the square peg doesn't fit in the round hole. That's kind of weird. That's a cool observation. So it's that curiosity that one has as well is amazing.
It is amazing. And I want to give a shout out to Rachel Beck. She's awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
I love Rachel. Sherry Landy's here. Gratitude for everyone that shows up either live, either live or after the fact. I just have all my appreciation for you and the audience and people supporting this process, because it is a process. As marketers, we're constantly experimenting about how and what works and what doesn't work. And I often say that data is key, and sometimes what we feel emotionally, and we look at the data and we go, "Oh, that's not really working as I expected it." So, it's one of those things where, okay, I've started a lot of companies. I've started, different projects and enterprises and things like that. Just like, I create something and I think everybody's going to love this, and nobody really is like saying no. It doesn't really. Nobody really likes it. And so it's like, I'm sure that you've had this experience as well. You started a company yesterday on your live. You were talking about this and what I learned at starting my first company, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit and what your experience so far has been, because I've been around and I might be a little more. I don't know.
You have expertise.
I have different feelings about it than you.
You have expertise. Yeah, the live stream yesterday was fantastic because it talked about my biggest lesson in my first company was learning that it's not really about each company, because we all know this, failure and success rate of small companies. It's so much more about the lessons that you learn. And yesterday's live stream was all around the fact that what my first company taught me to do was market and to build communities as a way to market, not just effectively, but personally, right? Like, I feel like so many people take the personality and being personal out of marketing, which is so wrong, because we're getting so hyper contextualized with our content that you have to add the person back into it, right? I don't know about you, but when I'm on LinkedIn, I see an ad with 20 smiling faces with the sun in the background and a hyperlink to a website. I'm like, never going on that, because I'm like, it's boring. Like, it doesn't speak to me.
Well, and I think maybe I'm not as cynical as what I imagine, because I agree with you, and there's a certain amount of balance between brand and personal identity, because if you're building a company, say for instance you want to build a company to sell, there still has to be, Richard Branson is a great example. Richard Branson is the the head of Virgin. However, there's a lot of different avenues of Virgin that are unique, and you may not know all of the companies that he owns. However, there is a certain personality involved in that organization, and as you grow and expand your business in your marketing field, and depending on where you want to go and how you want to grow, it will determine the personality of the business. And then there's the other part of the brand. You are a person, this is a brand, right? So you have to understand, okay, where do I want to fit into that equation, and how do I want to build that personality? Because if you bring so much of your own individualism into that brand, it makes it difficult to diversify, sell the company, so to speak. So like if you have a book of business and you have 1,000 clients, and you're like, you're doing all the brain, you're all doing Nico the brain stuff, and all of a sudden somebody wants to come by and buy the organization, and they're saying, well, where's all your where's all your other people? And it's like, you got all the business. It's like, that's a difficult piece of separation. So you have to be thoughtful about what and how you structure your personal brand versus your business brand.
Yeah, again, it's interesting because, in my opinion, personal brands, it's just a different word, different
label
for a reputation, right? Like, that's really it. At the end of the day, it's, if we just take personal brand away and say reputation, people instantly get it, because it's time tested, experiences and knowledge that you've gained from being in the system. So again, personal brand is just a way to showcase that. And again, that's the opportunity. It's like, where can you marry both a personal brand and bring personality inside of your brand, which could be an interesting content series now that I mention it. So
that would be an interesting conversation to have,
because it's so true though, right? It's like, you want to add a human element to your company, because again, buying anything is personal. So it's interesting, to say the least. But yeah, like the last big thing I want to add to the conversation about starting that first company was the fact that, if you had talked to me about 2 years ago about starting companies, I thought it was only reserved to people with tons of money, experience, time, resources. And throughout the whole process, I realized that anyone can do it. Like, it's only a piece of paper, but the idea and follow through is where the magic happens, and we all have the ability to do it. So that was kind of the message of yesterday's live stream.
Yeah. Well, and to expand on that point is, we live in a time in history like no other.
Absolutely.
And you have a computer, you have live stream, and you can produce. Look at podcasting. Look at how podcasting is developed. And I was in radio and broadcast and operated radio stations and was broadcasting, high school varsity games, live streaming, and doing all this amazing stuff when streaming first started coming in. And it's amazing to see what you can do with nothing more than a phone and an account, right? I mean, you can actually move things around and create. You can do a live stream with a phone now. It's like, it's just like, you have the ability to broadcast and share your message out anywhere in the world. And when you think about that, from my perspective, when people were hand painting billboards, and you think about, okay, all of the transition from the internet, the .com bust in 2000, and now we're in a range where people were born with iPhones in their hands, essentially. And think about that, the documentation and the digital aspect of that, and what it's going to mean in another 20, 30 years, where you're saying, hey, look what look what Dad's done. Look what Grandpa did. And I mean, my 83-year-old mother she texts all the time. She's on Facebook and she's like
It's
texting,
amazing.
and it's insane. And it's changing the way we do business. It's changing, and I think rather than broadcasting, the traditional broadcast, it's now a conversation. And I
Oh,
think
absolutely.
I think it's even more important to build relationships. And this is why I'm an advocate for relationship building, is because if you have a relationship and you stay top of mind, even if someone doesn't need your product, service, or assistance at this point in time, if you continue to stay in touch with them, maybe a year down the road, or maybe they introduce you to somebody else that needs your services. You don't know where it's going to come from. So, don't burn your bridges, and don't, think that nobody can help you, because there's a lot of people out there that want to help you. They just don't need anything that you have right at this moment. And that's how you find your audience and you resonate with people. You just stay consistent in your personality, you stay consistent in your delivery, you stay consistent in your messaging, and then people find you. If you're consistent and you show up and you're there, people will find you. The people that need you and the people that want to work with you, they show up. It's
Oh,
amazing
absolutely.
how that.
And just to add that to the conversation again, it's the megaphone versus telephone approach, right?
Yep.
Today, it's this, and again, thinking about the audience in mind. Me and Russ connected. We met offline. He invited me to an event. I met his business partner Kyle, who Kyle is runs a amazing company called Adora. We'll plug them real quick because
Yep.
it's an amazing company. And the fact is that through those interactions now, my company, Boundless Media, is working with Adora very actively on a new, interesting offering that the team has come up with over there. So that just goes to show you, and this has been, on paper, it's only been a couple months, but in reality, it's been 2 years, a year and a half in the
Yep.
making. Again, so timing is everything. So you just can't contextualize what's going to happen. You can only contextualize it once it's done. So it's the magic of digital, and the fact that it's more of a telephone world than a broadcasting world.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I love to expand on that, because
Yeah, please.
it's just, you never know. It's like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back. So, in a year and a half, it's like having coffee with Nico and he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to get out of college. I'm going to get my degree, nutrition, something this, nutrition, something that. And I think the seeds of marketing were already I think you were already planted at that point in time. You just didn't know it. So it's very good. So what's in your future? Now that you're marketing, you're doing some things, you're starting to gravitate toward others, you're making some progress in some areas. What is it that is on the next year? What do you see in the next year for Nico?
Yeah, so the beautiful aspect about marketing is the fact that as long as people are communicating, there's going to be a job for us, which is amazing because
the opportunities are endless. Actually,
they really are, and that's the thing. The hardest part hasn't been the lack of opportunities; it's the sheer amount of opportunities. And the thing that we at the Boundless team have finally nailed down is the fact that we want to help people tell their stories. So what we've done is really build a company, and now after the pilots, I know they work, but we basically want to take companies and instill a FDE mindset, which is foundation, design, and execution. What we want to do is establish the fact that foundations are not just a nice to have, they're a must have in today's marketing world.
Yep.
Because most of the time, brands and companies have most of the elements, but that hasn't enabled them to go to a good state. I think a small couple tweaks can get them from good to great, right? So that's what we want to focus on, is understanding a company's foundations. Then we want to help them design a plan that's right for them and their audience and their mindset. And then we want to help them execute, because nothing doesn't matter if you're theorizing about marketing and you're not doing, because
Right.
you and I, as marketers, we can test as much as we want, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it doesn't resonate with our audience. So that's what we're doing. We think we can change the way marketing is not just taught in big companies, but really embraced. And that's where we're out. We're trying to do that with companies because I just think there are too many stories that need to be told, and told in the manner and the context and the mediums of today.
Well, think about any large organization, how many small divisions and departments and elements you could walk through, and you could tell stories all day, literally.
Absolutely. But we don't.
And with media the way it is today, I started this way too early, and I think it's still something that needs to return and all. And I'm starting to see it now is corporate broadcasts.
Oh, absolutely.
And so you have an internal corporate broadcast that actually defines the people that are there, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and what the job is. And I think that could actually act as two-dimensional in the marketplace because it allows internal teams to understand what others do in the company, and then it would project and deliver some concepts about what the job is like for people moving into the market. Because you get out of high school or college and you're thinking, what the hell am I going to do? And it's like, what does this job even mean? And you're always amazed at these new jobs, what do these people do? How do they do it? How is it done? Just like you probably evolved into marketing. It's after you discovered what it was, then it became interesting because of what you loved, right?
Absolutely.
And so many people never find their niche because they're not exploring and going out and discovering some other niche.
I think, and the other part of the broadcasting is the fact that it's in large organizations, even small organizations, you might not know that you have access to a better 401k or a resource to help you pay for a class or internal learning. Like, you might not know about that. And that's why I think internal broadcasting is great, because it brings to light all the aspects of what's in businesses. We're working with a big client right now. And that's one of the biggest things I said, regardless of like recruitment or anything like that. What if your people just knew about the resource that you're already paying for?
Yeah.
Like, let's just start the conversation there. Yeah. So absolutely. I'm a huge fan of bringing to light in a relevant way the right resources.
Yeah. And it's amazing how when you're in it, it's invisible because you're not looking. Your
head down, right?
Yeah,
you're in the trench.
Your head down and you can't see that. So Nico, this has been fascinating. I love it. What's your show schedule? Now that you have live and you're getting out there and you're doing some things, where do people find your live stream, your content? Where's the best place?
Yeah, so I am going to take a book out of the Russ playbook. We need to come up with a better name for playbook because it's so much more. But I'll be live streaming now that I have it on LinkedIn. I want to do live stream every day around 7:30 a.m. PST time. I know the times are going to change soon, so most likely around that little gap. But then I want to start really taking that into a podcast. So same thing that you're doing with YouTube and podcasting. So every single day for at least the foreseeable future, we'll be doing a live stream there. But otherwise, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, reach out. I want to answer questions. I think the best thing that marketers could do is start contextualizing questions, because again, that's where the value is. So reach out to me, and I'll do a little plug for Russ. He's an awesome guy. If you think he's this fun, quirky, amazing, smart individual, you're absolutely right. I've verified it. We've met it in person 2 or 3 or 4 times now. It's great. So send him a message, because I know he's much like me, and he will respond and actually want to grow a relationship with you.
And if you're not connected to Nico, get connected to Nico. He's on LinkedIn at Nico Bruyn, and it's super simple. Just do it. You'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it.
It's going to be the best thing you can do today. Oh, my friend, this has been absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. So are you going to go jump on a live now?
It's 7:30, so gotta
All
get do it,
right.
right?
I'll let you go. I'll let you go, brother.
Awesome.
Have a
See ya.
fantastic week and enjoy the day. Kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And you enjoy the day.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You bet.